Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience. My name is Kristen Mertz. I'm the Communications and Engagement Specialist here at Elderwerks Educational Services. We are so excited to have Edwin today presenting for Making Budgets Work. Just a reminder that this event is being recorded and will be posted live to Facebook and onto our YouTube channel. Elderwerks is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization, and our mission is to provide seniors and their families with information, referrals, and guidance for senior living, home care, and support services to help make appropriate decisions. The guidance we provide helps seniors stay home well or transition successfully into a new senior living opportunity. We provide education on a variety of aging topics for consumers and professionals who work with seniors. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to add them into the chat and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Edwin. Thank you all for being here this morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Edwin Urrieta from BMO Bank. I'm a relationship manager. I've been in banking for over 20 years now. Different roles, different positions within the bank. So feel free to ask me any questions at the end of the presentation, anything related to banking. I'll be glad to help out, whether it's making budget works or anything banking related. I'll be glad to answer those questions. Today, what we're going to talk about is making budgets work. Okay. When we decide about what we're going to, how we're going to save, how we're going to save for an emergency, how we're going to pay off our debts, it's really critical that we do make budgets. Me personally, I definitely have budgets. Ever since I was young, I always created budgets for, especially if I knew I wanted to achieve a certain plan, whether it was 2 years from now, 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. I always created a budget to make sure I achieve my ultimate goal. So today, again, we're going to talk about making budgets work. So what is budgeting? Budgeting is a process of creating a plan to spend your money. How can a budget help me? It helps you live within your means. It helps you create a clear picture of where your money is going, and you get to see where you're spending most of your money at, whether it's spending it on needs or spending it on wants, but it gives you that clear picture of where your money is going towards, and if you need to make any certain changes. It helps you pay down your debt as well too. Setting up a clear plan, especially when we take a look at our credit cards or any type of lending that we have, and we want to make sure that we pay it off in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now. What do we need to do now to be able to achieve that goal? So it helps you pay down your debt. It helps you save for a future or an emergency, a future financial goal, or an unexpected financial emergency. There's a lot of things that happens, and if we think about our past, we might realize that there's been multiple emergencies. They just occur to us, that had we done a better job of putting some money on the side, it could have easily helped us through that emergency as well too. Now, what are some of the obstacles that people usually face, and why we don't do why we don't budget? Well, these are just some examples. Some examples is I don't want to think about the future. It's too complicated. It takes too much time. My income and spending is not consistent enough. I'd rather just keep doing what I'm doing. I have no self-control. Budgeting causes more stress than it's worth. It's a hassle. I cannot keep up, so why even start? So understanding a bad habit may help us overcome it. What I want to do now is, obviously, I don't want you guys to share. I don't want anyone to share, but I would love to give you a minute, and just write down what's on your way. What are some of the obstacles that you're facing, that is not helping you budget. So take a minute. If everybody could just take a minute and just write down a sentence of what is your obstacle. And again, please don't share. I just want you guys to write it down. Just take a minute. So I'll give you a minute. Again, I'm not going to ask you to share, but just for your thoughts to have and to think about why we don't budget. Now, when you create a budget, think about setting goals, short term, mid-term, and long term. So, what are short-term goals? Usually is less than 2 years. If you were to look at some um, other reports out there, they're going to tell you that short-term goals can also be less than 3 years. But usually it's either 2 or 3 years. And some of the short-term goals can be paying off a credit card, setting up emergency savings, saving for a vacation, medical procedures, furniture, home improvements. I'm going to share my short-term goal with you. My short-term goal is in 2026, I would love to go to the World Cup. The World Cup is coming to the US, Canada, and Mexico. So what have I been doing to save for my short-term goal? I have a bucket, and in that bucket, I'm putting coins, uh, quarters, dimes, I'm just putting a bunch of coins in there. And what I'm gonna do is whatever money I save in that bucket is what I'm gonna spend on my for the going to the World Cup. I'm the reason why I'm doing that is because I don't want to feel that I'm spending money from my family. I'm spending money that I've been saving up throughout the years, and I've been doing this for like the last 2 years. So I've been doing this for me, it's going to be a 4 year commitment. So my short term goal again is the World Cup in 2026. Midterm goals can be anywhere between 2 to 5. In some reports, it's 3 to 10 years. So midterm again, 2 to 5 or 3 to 10 years. So that could be buying a car, a down payment on a home, paying off a debt. I'm going to share my midterm goal with you. My midterm goal is in 6 years, my younger son, he's going to be in high school. So at that time, in 6 years from now, I would like to buy a different house in a different community. So that's my midterm goal, is saving money to make sure that when my son goes to high school, I'm able to buy another house. And so we can move to a different community. Long-term goals is 5 plus years, and some reports again is 10 plus years. But long-term goal is saving for retirement, paying off a mortgage, creating a college savings fund. Well, my long-term goal, it is saving money for my retirement. And my retirement is 11 more years. And yes, I'm counting the days, I'm counting the months as but because I have 11 more years for retirement. Now, how can I get organized? Before creating a budget, organize your financial documents. You will need all your sources of income, a record of your average monthly expenses, if possible. Keep track of your expenses for at least 3 months so that you know how much you spend on each item on average. A list of your debts. Now, what I personally do is for my source of income, what I do, as I shared with you earlier, my goal is to retire in 11 years from now. So in the month of March and in the month of October, those are just the 2 months that I chose a long time ago. But the month of March and in the month of October, what I personally do is I like to look at all my investments, all my retirement accounts, and I like to see where I'm at that point, and if I'm on pace to be able to retire in 11 more years. It's some prior to banking, I used to be a financial advisor, and for those that do have a financial advisor, it's really a great idea to get together with your financial advisor and just to verify if you are on pace uh, for what you want to achieve at retirement. It's a report that I used to do with all my clients over 20 years ago, and until today, I'm still doing it for myself. Even though I'm no longer a financial advisor, it is still a report that I do to verify where I'm at currently and where if I'm on pace to be able to achieve my goals. So again, I do that for the month of March and I do that for the month of October. Uh, um, but obviously, you can choose any time. You can choose once a year. You can choose every or twice a year. Just to verify where you're at, so organizing your documents to see if you are on pace to receive the source of income that you're looking for to be able to retire. A list of all your debts, that is really critical. And the reason why it's really critical is because as we're considering retirement, we don't want to retire, obviously, with a lot of debt. So what do we do now to help us budget and help us pay off a lot of that debt to have a more smoother retirement? So creating a list of all your debt and creating a budget plan for each debt can help you achieve your goal for when you retire, because we all know how long we have to retirement. Some of us might have, some of us are currently probably already retired. Some of us might have 5 or 10 or 15 years to retirement. So we need to know exactly how much debt we have right now and what do we need to do now to be able to achieve our goals of retirement and not feel like we're overwhelmed with debt by the time we retire. You're gonna know how much income you have at retirement, and you're gonna know how much debt you have at retirement by creating that budget plan and sticking to that budget plan. So how can I free up funds? Cut expenses, reduce spending, price shop for services. Think about a new job. Consider freelance or gig work. Now, I'm going to share a story about my father. My father, when he used to work, he was in the welding industry, and he did that for over 30 years. When he retired, and he retired over 15 years ago, but when he retired, he wanted to still stay active. And one of the things he did was he did consider freelancing. He decided to go ahead and establish his own landscaping company. And the reason why he decided to establish his own landscaping company is the way he saw it is for him to stay active at retirement. So now he's been doing this for over 15 years, and he works on Thursdays and Fridays as landscaping. He also brought in his older brother and some of his friends over to be able to stay active at retirement and still be able to get some money on the side. Obviously, they collect their Social Security, they collect their pension, and at the same time, they're collecting a little bit of money by being able to do landscaping. Nowadays, working in banking, we do see this a lot where people are retiring, and when they retire, they do decide to establish their own business just to keep active. We're also seeing this a lot with younger kids. Graduating right out of high school, we're seeing a lot of kids starting their own entrepreneur business as well too. But again, how can I free up funds? One good way by freeing up funds is considering freelancing. A lot of us have been in certain industries working for many, many, many years, and we can use that knowledge to be able to start our own little business as well too. Now, one of the budgets, one of the most common budgets out there, it is the 50-30-20 rule. With the 50-30-20 rule, it's spending 50% on needs, spending 30% on wants, and spending 20% on savings and debt. So the benefit about the 50-30-20 budget rule is that it's not asking you to remove all your wants. No, if anything, it's asking you that your wants should be spent at least at 30%. Now, what are needs? The 50% of needs is like, for example, your rent, your groceries, your utility bills. Your wants, obviously, we know what our wants are, which is shopping, eating out, entertainment, and then savings and debt. Now, the debt part is not talking about the minimum payment. It's talking about beyond the minimum payment. So if our credit card minimum payment is $25, it's what are we doing to spend to making sure that we're paying additional principal into that credit card, which if you're paying $100 for a minimum payment of $25, you're putting $75 into this bucket, into paying off the debt, which is the $75. But again, a really good rule of thumb for a lot of people who work in the finance industry is to save money for retirement, we should be considering around up to 15% in putting money aside for retirement. It's putting around 15%. So it's again 20% is for savings and debt as well. I'm going to give you an example of Martha, cutting expenses. So when we think about Martha, Martha earns $2,000 per month. Which of Martha's expenses can be reduced or cut? So if Martha is making $2,000 and in her wants she's spending $330, And in her needs, she's spending $1,485. Okay, so if we think about the fact that she's right now paying, or she's paying right now $1,815, so she really only has $185 in savings. Now, $185 in savings, that is definitely, for some of us, it might be considered good enough, but for a lot of us, $185 a month is definitely not enough, because if you think about it, $185 is not just going to her savings, but it's also going into her reducing her debt, which can definitely be a little bit too low. Now, if we look at what Martha is earning and what Martha is spending on, maybe some of these things she can probably cut. For example, coffee, $40 in coffee. Maybe she can cut that a little bit. Salon, I personally don't know how much salon costs, but if she's making $2,000, can she really afford to spend $100 in going to a salon? The other one, perhaps, if we look at this on her needs, is car insurance. She's spending $120 in car insurance. $120 in car insurance, if you think about that, she's almost practically at $1,500 in car insurance. One thing that she might want to consider doing is shop out there for different car insurances. If she's only paying $240 per car payment, $240 per car payment, that's definitely not that expensive. So maybe perhaps her car insurance might be a little bit too much, and she might want to consider going to a different car insurance. And again, just price shop. Find out if there's any other better deals out there for her to be able to reduce that in car insurance, which can definitely free up a lot of those funds. Now, I'm not going to ask you to share, but really what I wanted to do for the next minute or two is I wanted you to just write down a list of some of the things that you're spending on a monthly basis, and some of the wants and some of the needs. Just write down a couple of the things that you're spending on a monthly basis, and it might be an eye opener for a lot of you, where you're realizing that you're spending way too much money on certain categories, and you need to decide whether you're going to shop around, or maybe you might realize I'm spending way too much money on wants and need to maybe cut some of these expenses down as well too. So I'm going to give you a minute or two. And again, I'm not going to ask you to share, but if you could take a minute or two and just start writing down some of the wants and some of the needs that you're currently spending on. So I'll give you a minute or two. And again, some of the wants that some of us might be looking at, it is how much money we're spending in coffee, how much money we're spending in restaurants, how much money we're spending out there in entertainment, clothing, salon, and obviously there's other wants as well too that you might be looking at. When we think about our needs, some of us might be looking at either rent, or maybe we might be looking at our mortgage, how much money we're spending on groceries. Can we cut some of those groceries? Or no, we cannot cut some of those groceries. Our utility bills, car payments, insurance, transportation expenses. Now, when I look at transportation expense, I'm assuming that's gas, health insurance, medical expenses, and internet as well too. So hopefully everyone had a chance already to write down some of their wants and needs. Now, debt repayment strategies. There are two different type of debt repayment strategies. They're most popular. The first one is the avalanche method, and the second one is the snowball method. The avalanche method says that pay off debt with the highest interest rates first. So if we were to look at the avalanche method, and we were to look at on the right side, there are four debts. One major credit card with a 26%, retail credit card with 22.3%, personal loan at 15%, and then the student loan at 5%. So if we were to go based on the avalanche method, the one with the highest interest rate is the major credit card at 26%. So that's the one that's following the avalanche method. That's the one we're going to be paying off first. If we were to go over the snowball method, is pay off the debt with the lowest balance first. So paying off the debt with the lowest balance first is going to go ahead and be the one for the retail credit card at 22.3%. The lowest balance is only $800. Now, why would someone want to pay off the one with the lowest balance? Well, the biggest reason why is because obviously they're gonna feel good that they were able to reduce their debt by paying out one credit card. So it's an accomplishment to be able to say, okay, this credit card is done. I don't need to worry about it. It's already paid off. Now let's focus on the other three credit cards. So that's the reason why someone will probably go over the snowball method. The avalanche method, obviously, because if you have a credit card that has a really high interest rate, well, you're paying a lot of money into interest. So that's the reason why you're gonna want to go ahead and pay that one off, and that's the reason why someone would do the avalanche method. Whatever you choose, it's really your call. Obviously, a lot of people will tell you that the avalanche method is the best approach because you're going to want to pay off the one with the highest interest rate. But again, it's what you feel. If it makes you feel great that you accomplish by paying off one credit card, then that's your approach to being able to pay off the debt. Now, how would you deal with an emergency? Protecting yourself. The average emergency financial shock is $2,000, and this is from the Duke University. Aim to save at least 3 months of living expenses. Now, we did write down 3 months here, but for the most reports, usually people will say 6 months of living expenses. And one of the biggest reasons why for 6 months is that sometimes when we might, well, if we were to lose a job, it could take us a while to find a new job. And that's the reason why it's good to save anywhere between 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Now, remember to get insurance as well too. That's one way to protect yourself. Many of us will use a credit card to pay off for emergency. Now, obviously, if we have no other choice, then we should definitely use the credit card. But keep in mind that if you were to use a credit card, that could have a downward spiral of debt. That can definitely lead to additional debt in your life, and perhaps we might not be in a position to be able to accumulate additional debt. Um, and obviously, with more debt, it reduces our ability to save money as well too. So by making sure that we are saving for an emergency, it can definitely help us overcome additional debt by preventing us from using that credit card because now we have those funds available in our savings accounts. So just keep that in mind. Strategies to free up funds. Now, tips for spending and savings. Review subscription, shop around, check clearance aisles, check markdown sites, buy in bulk, get it when it's hot. Rules for deals, check expiration dates, look for defects and damages, shop around. Will you use it? Do you need it? Some of us might buy in bulks, and which is perfectly fine, but if um, and some of us might get it when it's hot, but we got to consider ourselves, even if it's hot, do we really need it, or are we just buying it just to buy it as well too? So if it's hot and we obviously need it, then we should definitely get it. But if we're gonna buy it and we're never gonna use it, then what was the purpose of buying it? And then buying in bulks, which is perfectly fine, but are we really going to consume all the entire bulk before it expires? So those are things we need to look at before we start buying it. We gotta be cautious about how we're buying it, how we're spending, and are we really gonna use it before it expires? Are we really gonna use it even though the deal was really hot? Now, strategies for sticking to your budget. Focus on the rewards versus the punishment. Make it automatic. Create buckets. Get real-time spending feedback and set reminders. Creating buckets. Now, number three. Well, let's go over one by one. Focus on the rewards versus punishment. It's really critical that we do start thinking about the rewards. For example, personally for me, is going to the World Cup in 2026. For me, that is the reward, is being able to afford to go to not just one game, but maybe be able to go to 2 or 3 games of the World Cup. I'm not a big soccer fan, but the reason why I want to go to the World Cup is because I want to I want to say that I was there when the World Cup was in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. But again, by being able to save money for the World Cup, it's my rewards is being able to go to those games. Make it automatic. If you do have if you're working for a company that allows you to save money to a 401k, that's really great because you're automatically saving it. There are with your bank accounts, you could set up automatic savings as well too, which is really great because it's doing it for you. And a lot of times we don't have to worry about doing it ourselves. It's automatically doing it for you. And then create buckets. It's really important that you do create different type of buckets. As I shared with you earlier, in the month of March and the month of October is when I personally look at all my buckets. I look at all my retirement accounts, and no, I don't have it in just one place. I have it in multiple different locations, and that's how I create my buckets. Even though I work in banking, I do bank at different I do bank at not just with BMO, but also with different financial institutions, because each bucket is I use it for a different reason as well too. So no, you don't have to have all your money in just one location. But as we get closer to retirement, it is a lot easier to maintain that money in maybe in 1 or 2 locations instead of having it in multiple different locations. But as we're younger and we're thinking about how saving money, we can definitely start thinking about maybe perhaps having different buckets at different locations. Get real-time spending feedback instead of reminders. Real-time spending feedback, obviously, use your banks. They're able to provide information to you about your spending feedback or spending accounts by using your transactions, by online banking. You're able to get that feedback. Um, so and again, don't forget about your financial institution representative. They might be able to help you. So if you have a financial advisor, definitely talk to your financial advisor. If you work really close with bankers, talk to your bankers. Tell them about your income, tell them about your debt, and then they're gonna be able to help you strategize a budget plan as well too. Obviously, is your call how if you're gonna follow the budget plan, but they might be able to provide you suggestions of what you can do to help you save money for the future. Save whether it's saving for an emergency or whether it's saving money for a retirement as well. Now, that's all I have for you. What we spoke today about was making budget works. We talked about different type of plans, different strategies. I share some of my strategies with you.
Thank you so much, Edwin, for speaking today. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for your patience this morning. We hope you enjoyed the presentation. They will be posted onto our YouTube, Facebook, and on our website. So that is all we have for you today. Edwin, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.